Hi everyone, this is Sandra from Browns Point Ceramics. Today I wanted to show you how I do my carvings on Greenware. The piece that I'm working on today is this large clay magic tree that I'm going to be turning into a Halloween theme tree. So this is the base right here. And if we look at the picture for a moment of what it should look like as a Halloween tree, you'll see that there's quite a lot of work that we have to do to make it happen. So let me just go ahead and zoom that in so you can see that better. The base itself has a few different cutouts, including some text that we need to put in there. And I know that there's people that do it many different ways. Some people use stencils. Some other people may prefer to carve on wet Greenware. Today I'll be showing you how I do my carvings once the Greenware is pretty much dried up already. All right. So here's something that I do sometimes when I want to get more comfortable with the carvings, especially if this is the very first time I'm going to be carving something that I'm not familiar with. What I like to do is just first draw it on a piece of paper and make sure I get comfortable with the shapes. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking on the phone at the picture of what I need to carve. It's pretty straightforward. That Happy Halloween text is not that hard to replicate. So let me just sketch it here. Okay, and if you notice here, the part where there's actual cuts through the text are in very specific places, not all throughout. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. I'm just kind of marking it here so that my hand gets trained to know where you will have to do it later. Okay. All right, so then there's the bats. This shape is an interesting one because if you can see here, even the one sample from Clay Magic, the bat's not perfect. And so what I'm trying to do here, let me see if I find one that I like best. I think I kind of like the idea of this one here. The one thing that's important to know about the bats in this particular figure is they need to be somewhat elongated. And this is, I think, particularly so that the shape does not lose its meaning once you carve it. It's pretty easy to sometimes carve something and after you look at it, it looks pretty much like just a hole on the Greenware. And that's not necessarily the effect that you wanna get. Okay, so I think something like that will do the trick. Just need to be careful to make it symmetrical. And then the other piece right here is pretty straightforward because it's just a moon. And I should say, pretty straightforward after you do it a few times. The very first times that you carve moons, at least in my experience, they tend to look like something else and not necessarily a moon. All right, so now that I'm ready and sort of comfortable with these shapes, I'm gonna set my guides aside and I'm gonna have to start working on the actual piece of Greenware. So I'm gonna do this way just because it's more comfortable for me, but basically what I'm going to be doing is using tool, could be this sharp one here or this one with the rounded tip. I'm going to be just drawing this same design on the piece of Greenware first, and I'm going to do it very lightly. The idea is you just want it to be your guide before you go in and try to cut any holes. All right, so I don't know if you can kind of see this here because I drew it very, very lightly, but one of the things that I noticed as I was finishing this up, I noticed that the bat that I had made, it's a little bit too big for the moon to kind of go around it like in the sample, but that's fine. When you work on your, custom pieces, you're free to obviously change up whatever designs as you needed. And I think in this case, it's really not gonna make a lot of a difference. It's actually gonna still look pretty cool, in my opinion. So once I'm comfortable with how this is looking, as I drew it very, very lightly, I'll probably just go over it one more time to make sure it's very obvious to me. Okay, I think those are pretty easy and straightforward. I might have to do a little bit more fixing on the lettering, but I think I can still work on this after I've done the cutouts. All right, so for my next step, I'm gonna use a X-Acto knife, and I'm gonna start with the easy parts. The easy parts, in my opinion, are the pieces that I need to remove entirely, which is this bat and the moon. So the way that I like to work on it is, once I have the guidance over there, I like to make a hole, and so I normally just kind of scratch until I can get through. And you have to be careful when you're doing this because it's very easy to overdo it and you end up breaking the piece entirely. I think I've done this enough times that sort of know when to stop applying some pressure. This angle is actually a little bit difficult for me, so I will continue working on it like this, even at the expense of perhaps you not being able to see the whole process as clearly as I would like you to. Okay, so now that I'm done, you're probably wondering why I'm going through this much trouble working on dry greenware rather than carving these pieces on wet greenware, which would be a lot quicker. Sometimes you just don't have the luxury of doing that. In this case, I bought the greenware already made from another ceramic shop, and so I have the option of either not doing the carvings or working on them while they are still dry. So next here, I'm going to work on the moon, and then I'll move on to the parts of the text that need to be cut through. Okay, so I think that edge, it's looking pretty good. Have to now work on the rest. All right, so I'm done with all of the cutouts on the letters, And the next step is going to be using a wet brush. I'm going to go around all the shapes and make sure that they are smooth and nice. Okay, I think I'm mostly happy with how it looks, but I'm going to go over it one more time with a sponge. And at the same time that I'm just cleaning up the area and softening the clay a little bit, so that when I go over with the dotting tool again, I'll be able to put enough of the text back the way that I want to. Okay, let me actually do it a little bit more here. Okay, I think I'm done with this piece. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. And I'm pretty sure that once it gets fire and, well, I guess clean first the rest of it and then fire, it will look awesome. The bad news for me is that now I have to get the big tree that's right here and take this bad cutout and pretty much repeat the same process all around that tree. But I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like once it's finished, just so you can take a look and see the finished piece. All right, thank you.